I came to Canada at the age of 14. Within 2 months, my face was inside a toilet. I think I picked every type of berry. I didn't have money to pay for my rent. Life was tough. I burned my candle from both sides. But the business started rewarding me. Long time ago, 1961, I was born in northern India, small town called Jagraon. Lived most of my life in another North Indian town called Moga. I came from a middle class family. We were never wanting anything more than what we got, and we never had money to waste, etc., etc. We were aware that my father was a sole earner, and that there were 7 people living off of his monies. I'm very lucky because I was the youngest in my family, and I came to Earth 8 years after all of my brothers and siblings who were two years apart. My father sent me to an English model school so I could speak English and learn English. But at the age of 14, my father was sponsored by my sister who had married into a family in Canada, and she sponsored my father to come to Canada. And he was allowed to bring his children that were under the age of 21. My elder brother, who was 8 years older than me, had fallen into a bad company back in India, and my father wanted to just get him out of India so that he can take him to a country where he has to fend for himself. So I came to Canada at the age of 14. On pictures, Canada looks beautiful. But to an immigrant who has just arrived, it can be a very cold place and a very misunderstood place. My first job in Canada, which I started basically 2 months after I landed here, was that of a janitor. Within 2 months, my face was inside a toilet trying to clean it, and it was a factory. It was an awful toilet. And I still remember saying, you know, I didn't come to Canada to clean toilets. After that, I ended up being a farm worker. I think I picked every type of berry. I have worked 12-hour shifts for $20 and sometimes not even getting paid for that. I sold encyclopedias door to door as one of the summer jobs. I went door to door from here to Regina, which is central part of Canada. For most of my high school life, I was a gas station attendant from 11 to 7 a.m. in the morning. And then I took a bus from there and went straight to school for my high school. Studied till about 3 o'clock, washed up in the high school bathroom, and 4 o'clock went home, slept, repeat. Life was tough, but I never felt it was tough. That's the cards I was dealt, and that's the cards I am playing. And I never complained. I don't remember ever complaining. This is how life was. One day I was at a gas station and this gentleman walks in and he goes, "Hey, why don't you come and be a busboy downtown?" And obviously this job was not a graveyard shift as I was doing, so it kind of appealed to me. I became a busboy in a Greek restaurant. You know, I was dishwasher there, bartender, waiter, cook. I think I did everything in a restaurant business. And in my grade 12, and while I was putting myself through school, I used to live on my own. Reason is, in Indian culture, it is considered not very nice to live with your sister, and you always feel like I'm living with my sister. That's not a good thing. Me and my brother moved out. We got our own apartment. I used to pay half of the rent. He used to pay half of the rent. But my brother, unfortunately, he has passed away, but he had a drinking problem. He was alcoholic, and he wasn't happy drunk. He was a mean drunk. And I remember he broke my nose once. He pulled a knife on me one day, and that basically prompted me to move out. When I moved out, for a few nights, I didn't have money to pay for my rent. I remember sleeping in the laundry room of the same apartment building I would sneak into because I still had the keys for the apartment building, I would sneak in around 11 o'clock and go to sleep in the laundry room. And that went on for about 3-4 days. And what happened is one day a lady came in late at night to do her laundry, and she saw me sleeping there. She was scared, and she complained to the manager, and obviously that possibility shut down. I remember sleeping a few nights under the Terminal Street Bridge in Vancouver, alone. You know, these times were tough, but I will honestly say it didn't feel like I'm going through a hard time. Now, looking back, I see the hardship in it because I have my own children and I raise them, and I can't imagine them at age 15, them sleeping alone, forget about under a bridge. And I have grandchildren that you can't imagine that they will be able to handle that. But, you know, I'm a firm believer that that which doesn't kill you make you stronger. It gave me resilience in the hindsight. I wanted to get ahead, and I married young. I was age 21 when I got married, and my wife came to Canada in 1984. I was married in 1983. Very quickly, within 2-3 years, I had a child. I was a maitre d' at a restaurant, glorified waiter, manager slash, and I realized that that's a dead-end street. Me and another friend of mine thought we should open a restaurant of our own, and we tried. We had some, you know, hard-earned monies that we had saved, $10,000-$15,000 each. We went looking for restaurants, but it just didn't come about. Eventually, I said, Dave, you got to do something different. And I was basically a high school dropout, and I had to drop out of high school. Partially because in my last year, grade 12, buses went on a strike. And I used to take a bus every day to work and also to school. For a few days, I had gone to school by taking a taxi, but taxi was costing me more than I could earn in that whole day working. So I knew that that can't happen. I used to be a really good student, but I ended up with like 19 absence. And I remember my teacher sending notes to my home, which they didn't realize that there's no guardian that lives with Dave, saying, hey, if you need help, come and see us, we'll help you. But being an immigrant boy at a very young age, I was also told that if you ever went on welfare, or you took help from the government, because I was an immigrant, and whoever sponsored you would be on the hook for that. And I never wanted my sister to be on the hook for any of that, or even know the fact that I needed help from welfare. And so that was never the option, so I just quietly dropped out. I had dreams of becoming a doctor, but that was not to be. And I finished grade 12 much later by doing the final year through night school. By then I had bought a house. I decided that maybe the only job that's left for me is to be a salesman, selling homes or selling cars. I knew nothing about cars, you know, other than I had a car, but I knew nothing about how to sell. But I had bought and sold a house by then. And I said, okay, housing it is. And a lot of people don't know is that I put aside 6 months worth of mortgage payments, car payments, grocery payments, hydro, cable. I put it aside. I said, Dave, I give myself 6 months to succeed in this business. And if I succeed, wonderful. If I don't, I'll go back to my old job. I started my real estate career in late 80s in October. I remember that very, very clearly. First month did not sell a thing. First month you're barely able to even figure out the forms that you need to sign and all of that. I sold nothing in October. November comes around, nothing. December rolls around and I sold nothing. Even if somebody from my office sold a house, in a certain area, I would go knocking on the doors in the neighborhood, which all the other established realtors were not doing, but I had to do it. And I would be truthful. I will say, my company has just sold a house in the neighborhood. Would you like to sell your house? I remember at Christmas time, me knocking at doors and having to pare down the presents for the children and all of that, but that was necessary at that time. I sold nothing in December. January rolls around, nothing. It's early February, and I barely got 2 months worth of payments left. I said, might as well go and see my old restaurant where I used to work. It was a tapas bar. And I said, let's see if they have filled my job. So I go there dressed up as a realtor, suit and a tie, I had a tie on, and I go there, and all the staff are excited to see me because I worked with them for so long. And they all ask me, Dave, how's it going? How's it going in real estate business, And they see me with a tie. And I lied through my teeth. I said, business is wonderful. You should try also. And I had not sold a thing. I had gone to the restaurant to see if they filled my job, and now I could not go back. I had shut that door my pride did not allow me to admit that I was failing at selling homes. But I was trying really, really hard. End of February, I sold one house, and it was quickly followed by another one and another one. And I'm very grateful that year I made Medallion Club, which meant on multiple listing service, I finished in top 10% of realtors. I had a lot to learn in real estate business. I remember coming home, first time I met a developer, and I'm coming home and I'm telling my wife, I said, I met a guy today, he is so smart. And next day I would come again excited. Remember I told you yesterday I met a guy? Today I met another guy who's even smarter than that guy. And I would do that all the time, basically learning a lot from these people and admiring these people who were developers. And my wife eventually said, do you ever find anybody who's dumb than the previous day? I said, no, they're all very smart and they're all working in their own ways. And I worked very hard. I knew I wanted to get ahead, and I was living hand to mouth at that point. I burned my candle from both sides, not from one side, from both sides. I was working 12 hours a day, whatever it took. But the business started rewarding me. And in 92, 93, 94, I used to average selling a home every other day. That's a lot of homes. That's a lot of, and I was the only guy working. Like I didn't have helpers or assistants as they call them nowadays. And there was a year I finished in top 10 realtors in all of the Fraser Valley. Selling was exciting. To make the sale, you feel like you have made a sale, and getting that thrill all the time, validation that you have made it. But I also have a weird trait in my personality that whenever I find that I have done something and I've learned something about selling homes, etc., and there's nothing new I can learn, I'm always looking for something new. And I started going off towards development properties, acreages that I could get. I came across very quickly a problem. Even though I could find good deals, but I didn't have the money. I was trying to approach fellow Indians who were also immigrants, but they never had enough money. I knew I had to reach beyond my community to get ahead. While knowing that, while trying to develop a few properties and getting into development business, I came across a family, a friend, and very nonchalantly we met a Chinese family, the Young family, and after a few trials and getting to know each other and being honest with each other and trying to do good business, we became partners. And we opened a company that we owned together, was Isle of Man Developments. We weren't doing a huge amount of developments, but we were doing some developments. So slowly my business went from home sales towards acquiring properties and getting to know that system, how to take this thing through the city halls, etc., etc. There was one of our projects, and as existence would have it, our builder ran away, who was going to build a townhome complex, which would have been our first townhome complex. And the builder ran away, and there was nobody to build that project. And we had already picked up the building permit and demolished all the houses on the lands. But sure enough, I gave up a lucrative realtor career to don a hat of a builder. And then the Isle of Man construction came about. First project was Kennedy Woods, 28 townhomes, and the times were bad. We had a leaky condo crisis in Vancouver in those days. We are talking back late 70s. So much so was a problem that even the government's new home warranty program went broke, and it was really difficult to sell. I only remember selling only 5 units to arm's length people. All the other units, we had to go and get end user mortgages and divide among ourselves and go and try to get end user mortgages, rent them all out, and only then we were able to pay off the mortgage. Now, most people would have run away. Most people would have said, enough, I don't want to go into construction. But it took us back year and a half, and we came back with 90 townhouses, which in those days, we are talking going back 20, 25 years ago, was a major project. We were starting to do well, and it was a good project. It was well received. Then we ran into a problem that I was an Indo-Canadian and trying to build in a Caucasian market. And we were basically Indian and Chinese trying to build in a Caucasian market. And you run into this little bit of underlying discrimination. And we had to go and win Georgies to tell people we are good builders. We had to compete and go and get awards for construction and put them there on the shelf saying, hey, we are not saying anything. Independent people are saying we're good builders. Built the business on good ethics, good people, and slowly the business took off, expanded from here to Alberta. Did a lot of development in Alberta also, but presently Isle of Man is a very low-key company. We don't flaunt, we don't say, look at us, look at us, look at us. That's not our business forte. We are just trying to do the best by each piece of land. And it's been very rewarding. I will say that we have had lots of success, and I think people who know the business know that we have some certain value. I bring 35 years worth of experience to land development and construction and just dealing in land. Business has been very good. We have done anything to do with real estate we have done. I even started a MIC, built convention centers, built storage businesses. Universe has been very, very kind, and we continue on that path. Now, one of the gifts that God has given me, it has brought a lot of young people into my business, and my job is to shepherd them, and whatever knowledge, lived knowledge that I have gained, my job is to pass it on, and I do my very best to do that. Life has been good, and we continue to do more and more.